my help.
Hello. It's Friday. And as usual, here goes your Friday video. Now, today, I want to talk about promise. The promise. So, the promise is ours, right? So, the promise is yours, and the promise is also mine. Now, Simone, what promise are you talking about? Well, guess what? There are several promises that God have made to me and God have made to you. So let's get into it. Now in Matthew 28 verse 20, it says that I am with you always, even to the end of the age. God is with you always. Didn't I say that? When we talk about the sun, and is the sun still shining? And if you did not get the opportunity to watch that video, please go ahead and watch that video. Is the sun still shining? God said he's with you. Matthew 28 verse 20, he's with you always. Isn't the sun still shining even though the rain is falling? Even though it's so gray with all those clouds, isn't the sun still shining somewhere else? Yes, it is. Not just the sun, but also the son. God is still present. Jesus is still present. And he promised to be with you everywhere, even to the end of the age. Well, David Livingstone returned to his native Scotland after 16 difficult years as a missionary and an explorer in Africa. So David Livingstone was an explorer. He was a missionary doing things in Africa. And talking about missionary, I am so happy that I get the opportunity to come every single Friday to spread the good news, to spread the gospel of God. A lot of people in this world are still unreached. They have not heard the good news of Jesus. And it's up to you and it's up to me to share the good news of God. Now, David Livingstone had 16 difficult years on the ministerial field. I think a lot of time people think that, okay, you're a Christian, you're not supposed to have challenge. Yeah, a lot of challenge. Trust me, sometimes I have so much challenge. I'm wondering like, oh my God, I'm serving you and all this problem come. But then I keep on reminding myself, I keep on encouraging myself of God's promise. And that's what this topic is about today. The promise is ours. So it's not only mine, but it's also yours. That God said he is with us always, even to the end of the age. So when we feel downcasted, down, depressed, whatever the case may be, and feel just like we're by ourselves, alone, neglected, abandoned, whatever the negativity is, guess what? God promised still stand for your life, and God promised still stand for my life. So let's get back to Mr. Livingstone. So his body was, I want to say, was just eaten up, torn up by the ravages of some 27 fevers that had coursed through his veins during the years of his service. His left arm hanged useless. You probably be like, Simone, why his left arm, hang useless? Well, believe it or not, at his side, the result of being mingled by a lion. Yes, I said it. A lion basically eat this man hand off. Yes. And go look up David Livingstone for yourself. Don't just take my word for it. Go look up David Livingstone. And he was a missionary from Scotland. So speaking to some student at Glasgow University, he said, "Shall I tell you what sustained me during the hardship and loneliness of my exile? It was Christ's promise." Imagine 16 years of difficulty, 27 fevers that just run through his body. He had sickness. He had things that are going on to him. And when I think about David Livingstone, I get to think about Job. I think about Job, and why Job come to mind. Job had so much difficulties. He had so many different afflictions. It said he had leprosy. He had all these different things that were affecting him. That his wife told him, why don't you just curse God and die? Why? And sometimes as humans, when we see our loved ones suffering or in great pain, we don't want to see that. It hurts us. It hurts us very deeply. And we don't want to see them struggling. We don't really want to see them hurt, especially when it's like a life and death situation. We really don't want that. But he said one thing that kept him was the promise of God. Because he said, God said, lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. And that's Matthew 28:20. Lo, I am with you. So even in your lowest spirit, even in your lowest time, God is with you. Even when you're in those valley situations, you know, a lot of time we want to be on the mountaintop. I know I like to be on the mountaintop. Yes, guilty. I want to be on the mountaintop. But what happened to those valley situations? We have to face those valley situations. We have to. But the great thing about those valley situations is that, lo, God promised to be with you always. Even when you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, he said, I am with you. You shall fear no evil. He said, even if you make your bed, right? Even in the darkest of darkest, he is with you. You cannot hide from God. He is omnipresent. He is omniscient. He's omnipotent. He is all-knowing, and he's everywhere. He is God. So no matter what we try, we can't hide from God. We can't hide from God's promise over our life. We can try to run from it. And I'm sure you've tried to run from God's promises over your life. Probably think, you know what? This is too much for me to handle. Nothing ain't wrong with that. Trust me. I've been there. But you know what? When you can really acknowledge the fact that God have a calling on your life and you're willing to let everything go. You're willing to surrender it. You're willing to lay it down. Put it at the cross of God. Put it at the feet of God. And it's just not your will, but his will be done in your life. Then you will see God starting to move some things. And don't get me wrong, it comes with a price. It is a challenge. And I'm not going to tell you it's a bed of roses. No, it's not. It comes with a price, and it comes with such great challenge. But in the midst of it, God is there with you because that's his promise. I am there with you. Lo, I am with you always. So Mr. Livingstone is talking to these children at the university, and they want to know, like, sir, you've been through such great difficulties. What kept you? And he said, that promise is ours. That God said that he is with you. So even though he was going through sickness, even though he was attacked, he knew that God wouldn't leave him. God was there with him, and he held on to that promise. Said, no matter what the trials we face, Christ never leave us. Do you believe that God is leaving you in the midst of your crisis? No, he's not. So no matter what you feel like right now, and you probably feel like, you know what, God have abandoned me, God have forsaken me. The Bible said, even when your mother and father forsake you, Christ will not forsake you. He will not. And Mr. Livingstone is just the perfect testimony of who God is. And God promised that he will never leave. Because guess what? He was going through some difficulties. He was going through all these affliction, but he did not die. And I know sometimes people will look at just everything that's negative. Oh, well, This happened, that happened, that happened. But thank God, you made it. You survived it. And that's it. Why not look on the positive outcome of things? Stop looking at the negative and just count your blessing. Count your blessing. In the midst of your affliction, count your blessing. In the midst of your trial, count your blessing. In the midst of your storm, count your blessing. In the midst of your cloudy day, count your blessing. Guess what? As long as you have the breath of Christ that's still breathing in you, there is hope. There is hope. Now, He is with us every step of the way. Do you believe that God is with you every single step of the way? I believe so. Some days I don't feel like it, but I know that's just mind over matter, my flesh trying to step in. And then I have to repent. And then that's the next thing. Are we confessing our sin? Are we repenting? We have to die of ourselves daily. We have to. Because if you don't, you'll find yourself dropping into sin. And maybe it's not something that you've said outward. Maybe it's not something that you've done. But just your thought process. Just the way you think can become a sin. Now, God is with you always. Keep that promise before you today and always. Keep that promise that I am with you. Lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. And that is Matthew 28 and verse 20. Now, this week I'm charging you. And Simone, what are you charging us with? Have you had a loved one leave you? A friend proved fickle, fake. You thought you had a friend, but then you find out that your friend is really fake. And you're probably like, no. This wouldn't happen, that wouldn't happen. And then to find out that person is not who you think they are. Unlike people, Christ's presence is guaranteed. How many times you have people who let you down? How many times you have people who have disappointed you? Who said they would have been there and never showed up? Are you still holding on to those promises that never come through? Are you still holding on to those? Or are you holding on to the real promise keeper? Are you holding on to your burden bearer? Are you holding on to your problem solver? Are you holding on to the one who is present? Are you holding on to Christ today? One day, we'll look back on every trial and see that Jesus was always with you. I tend to look back sometimes. There's a song and it says, roll back the curtains of memories now and then. Show me where you've brought me from and where I could have been. Remember, I am human and humans forget. So remind me, God. Remind me, dear Lord. And I see the evidence in my life. I see the evidence of God all over my life. I know He is with me and I know He is with you. And if you feel as though God is not with you, today I charge you to ask Him, God, come into my life. Have you welcomed Him? Have you invited God to come into your life? Have you asked God to be your personal Lord and Savior? Those are some very tough questions. But if you don't invite Him in, He will not come in. So I would advise you this week, meditate on those words. Think about it. If you feel left alone, go back. Check yourself. God is not away from you. You are away from God. Again, God is not away from you. You are away from God. But guess what? There is hope. It's not too late. God's promise still stands. And His promise is not only for me, but it's for you. Lo, I'm with you always. Until the end of the age, He's with you. So don't forget to smash that like button, click subscribe, ring the notification bell, and as usual, share. The best is yet to come. See you guys next week. Love you.